Hey guys, this chapter 4 is called Loneliness. For a while, Wilbur stood gloomily indoors. He walked to the door and looked out. Rain stuck to his face. His yard was cold and wet. His trough had an inch of rainwater in it, and Templeton was nowhere to be seen. "Are you out there, Templeton?" called Wilbur. No answer. Suddenly, Wilbur felt lonely and friendless. "One day, just like another," he groaned. "I'm young. I have no real friends here in the barn. It's going to rain all morning, and Fern won't come in such bad weather. Oh, honestly." And Wilbur started crying again for the second time in 2 days. At 6:30, Wilbur heard the banging of a pail. Lurvy was standing outside in the rain, stirring up breakfast. "Come on, pig," said Lurvy. Wilbur didn't budge. Lurvy dumped the slop, scraped the pail, and walked away. He noticed something was wrong with the pig. Wilbur didn't want food. He wanted love. He wanted a friend, someone who would play with him. He mentioned this to the goose, who was sitting quietly in a corner of the sheepfold. "Will you come over and play with me?" he said. "Sorry, Sonny, sorry," said the goose. "I'm sitting on my eggs, 8 of them. Got to keep them toasty, oasty warm. I've got to stay right here. I'm no flibberty, ibberty, gibbet. I do not play when there are eggs to hatch. I'm expecting goslings." "Well, I didn't think you were expecting woodpeckers," said Wilbur. Wilbur next tried one of the lambs. "Will you please play with me?" "Certainly not," said the lamb. "In the first place, I cannot get into your pen. I am not old enough to jump over the fence. Second place, I'm not interested in pigs. Pigs mean less than nothing to me." "What do you mean, less than nothing?" said Wilbur. "I don't think there is anything less than nothing. Nothing is the limit of nothingness. It's the lowest you can go. It's the end of the line. How can something be less than nothing?" "But if nothing is nothing, then nothing has nothing that less than it is." "Oh, be quiet," said the lamb. "Go play by yourself. I don't play with pigs." Sadly, Wilbur lay down and listened to the rain. Soon he saw the rat climbing down a slanting board that he used as a stairway. "Will you play with me, Templeton?" asked Wilbur. "Play," said Templeton. "Play? I hardly know the meaning of the word." "Well," said Wilbur, "it means to have fun, to frolic, to run and skip and make merry. Let the train go by." "I never do those things if I can avoid them," said the rat. "I prefer to spend my time eating and gnawing and spying and hiding. I am a glutton, but not a merrymaker. Right now I'm on my way to your trough to eat your breakfast, since you haven't got sense enough to eat it yourself." And Templeton the rat crept along the wall and disappeared into a private tunnel that he dug between the door and the trough in Wilbur's yard. Templeton was a crafty rat, and he had things pretty much his own way. The tunnel was an example of his skill. The tunnel enabled him to get from the barn to his hiding place under the pig trough without coming out into the open. He had tunnels and runways all over the farm and could get from one place to another without being seen. Usually he slept during the day and was about only after dark. Wilbur watched him disappear into his tunnel. In a moment he saw the rat's sharp nose poke out from underneath the wooden trough. Cautiously, Templeton pulled himself up over the edge. This was almost more than Wilbur could stand. On this dreary, rainy day, to see his breakfast being eaten by somebody else? He knew Templeton was getting soaked out there in the pouring rain, but that didn't even comfort him. Friendless, sad, hungry, he threw himself down in the manure and sobbed. Later that afternoon, Lurvy went to Mr. Zuckerman. "I think there's something wrong with that pig of yours. He hasn't touched his food." "Give him 2 spoonfuls of sulfur and a little molasses," said Mr. Zuckerman. Wilbur couldn't believe what was happening to him. When Lurvy caught him and forced the medicine down his throat, this was certainly the worst day of his life. He didn't know whether he could endure the awful loneliness any more. Soon there were only shadows and the noises of the sheep chewing their cuds and occasionally the rattle of a cow chain. You can imagine Wilbur's surprise when out of the darkness came a small voice he had never heard. It sounded rather thin but pleasant. "Do you want a friend, Wilbur? I'll be a friend to you. I've watched you all day and I like you." "But I can't see you," said Wilbur. "Where are you and who are you?" "I'm right up here," said the voice. "Go to sleep. You'll see me in the morning." So that's Wilbur crying again. And then tomorrow we'll finally meet Charlotte. Have a good evening.